What is going on? It's Alex coming back at you with another video, and today we're going to be doing a 2-round of mock draft with no trades. It is Mock Draft Monday, so if you are new, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. You guys know how to use YouTube. Coming this week also, starting on Wednesdays, is going to be the beginning of our 3-round mock drafts that are going to be spanning 2 days, Wednesday and Thursday. It's going to be just like the regular draft. Round 1 on day 1, rounds 2 and 3 on day 2. So stay tuned for that as well, because we're doing it every single week. So the best time to hop on is now. Below my face is my board. It's going to piss you off, and that's okay. The one thing I owe you is honesty, not to make you happy. And you know what? These guys are being consistently regraded, and those of y'all who do follow my show, you guys realize there's a new player in my top 10 who I'm extremely excited about. But I do blend my board with realism because I'm not going to take somebody who I know is not going to go in the first round remotely in the first round. And I think that's okay. I want to give you my little twist on what you should know. And I want to give you guys some informative information. That's kind of the same thing, but be able to give you guys what you guys are looking for. Let's get right into this. Carolina, guess what? This is after the Bryce Young benching. Yeah, that's right. I'm spending my lunch doing this instead of, enjoying my lunch, but that's okay. I love you guys for this. But starting off with the number 1 pick for the Carolina Panthers, it's a quarterback. Bryce can get traded, but it's not going to actually affect anything in this mock draft. I don't think he'll go for a 2nd-round pick. Just simply put, there's not very much positive. There's not many positives in terms of Bryce Young's game. I think he needs to sit, and I'm not saying that Bryce Young is over, right? I think the project is over of him being like the franchise guy for a particular squad for the time being. But I do think that, we've seen the flashes of Bryce when he's comfortable, and he's just shaken. He needs to take a lot of time to sit and develop. So unfortunately, I just don't really think that it's going to keep the Panthers from taking a QB at number 1. And the guy who I've been going with at number 1 is Cam Ward. I have Miller Moss above him. However, Miller Moss is far less experienced. I want to be able to see how he plays this week. Same thing with Cam Ward. I mean, they're both having very high-test games or high-level games this week, but both of them have been shining out this year. Both of them took a big step up. Technically, Miller Moss, no, but that's just because he ended up throwing 6 touchdowns and had like a 96 grade game versus Louisville in the bowl game last year. Let's not even talk about that because he's doing great regardless. But again, much less experience. Cam Ward brings mobility, unbelievable arm talent, and his only issue was not being able to tell himself no. The arm arrogance is there, but if you could use it properly, which you need some arm arrogance in the NFL, those windows are not as tight, so you need to believe in yourself. I think he could be someone truly special. And, he's not 5'9", he's 6'2". So there you go. Cam Ward is going to be the selection. Brings the size, brings the mobility. Honestly, I could really see him succeeding as a Panther. Pick number 2 for the New York Giants. This is going to be weird going quarterback 1 and 2. And I might be the only person, maybe on planet Earth right now, that believes quarterback could be going 1 and 2, and it wouldn't be a bad decision. I really, really like Miller Moss. I really do. And I think he fits the Giants as well. He has sneaky escapability to the point where I think people are very underrating his playmaking ability. My one issue is I think he needs to get more comfortable going to his 2nd, 3rd, and 4th read. Not saying it's impossible, but he also has that arm arrogance because he has unbelievable ball placement. Now, I am going to be overrating the hell out of him by putting him up here, but I am stamping my flag of approval until proven wrong. This guy is my quarterback 1. Cam Ward just feels like a more likely quarterback 1. But regardless, I'd be taking Cam Ward at 2 if you want really to have Miller Moss at 1. These guys are worth top 10 picks, especially on the trajectory they're going. If you said we're going to freeze them right now, they're not going to get any better. I would say Miller Moss is the guy who'd be worth a 1st-round pick, and then Cam Ward would be worth a late 1st. But I've seen so much development in Cam Ward that I can see it continuing and just being compound interest essentially on his development. And that's what makes me very confident in him. Miller Moss has yet to have a bad game, which again, 3 games, small sample size, but 2 of those were against very top level defenses, Louisville, as well as LSU. Again, not like top level, but far better than a Furman, for example. Like people who love Jackson Dart, you're going to point to a Furman game? Not really. But not to throw shade at Jackson Dart, I'm just saying that the defenses are far more translatable than some of the other games that he could have played in those 3. So at least we got to see at least him be able to perform versus higher level players. At number 3 for the Denver Broncos, there's a couple routes you can go here. You still could try to weaponize your front with Travis Hunter because he's going to be a wide receiver. He is not a corner. I wish he were a corner because I think he would be a better corner than wide receiver, but money talks. Wide receiver 23 was making as much as cornerback 4, and I think it's cornerback 5 now. No, I think it's still corner 4. But regardless, corners just don't get paid jack, and money talks. So I think Travis Hunter will be a wide receiver. I don't think at his size, at his frame, the role that he would play, it would be the best for the Denver Broncos. I just personally don't. So I will be going Will Johnson here. I think building a strong defense is going to allow for a lot more mistakes on the offensive side, and building a no-fly zone is the best way that you can ensure that as a possibility. Will Johnson's the best player I've studied, and I'm excited to see him versus USC, versus Miller Moss. I'm pretty sure that's this week, so super excited for that. Can't wait. Like, it's going to be a real battle, and Will Johnson struggled week 1, allowed 76 yards. But the thing I love the most about him is what I fell in love with Joey Porter and a lot of other players that I've been very high on. They bounce back. They might suck for a portion of the game, but they're the one to make the game playing save or the game ending save. And, I love that. Will Johnson got a pick 6 that game. Maybe it wasn't what actually won him a game, but it sure as hell stopped his slide. And I appreciate that about Will. Ended up going the next week versus Texas and pretty much defended in his title or his reputation with only allowing 6 yards. Pick number 4 for the New England Patriots. Left tackle still a big issue. Thing is, Will Campbell had a 46 grade this past week. He did look like, he had some certainly dominant reps in there, but it's tough. It is tough to say that he's going to be worth a top 10 pick. Looking at the talent, and to be fair, guys, I love Marcus Mbow. He's not going to be going as high as I have him ranked, and I'm going to be studying his game from Notre Dame to understand why he ended up allowing 4 pressures. And I've already talked to Marcus about it because he's actually a good person. We actually stay in touch. So, he's took the loss pretty heavily and took it on the chin too. So I'm excited to see him bounce back. That's going to really heavily determine how much I weigh that performance versus Notre Dame. If he cannot rebound, which I think he can, I hope he can, then he will be sliding. And it's starting to look like a pretty grim tackle class. I'm just going to be honest. And I just don't know if the Patriots can afford that. I don't think you can afford wasting a top 10 pick. Not wasting it, but spending a top 10 pick on someone who shouldn't be a top 10 player. It's just, at this moment, I really like Will Campbell, but you really have to be desperate. And I think Caden Wallace, even though he's been the 6th offensive lineman, he's been doing a relatively respectable job. And I want to give him that opportunity be able to add a 4th overall player to this team and then be able to, have him prove that he has the capabilities. So looking at the other options available, it's Nic Scourton, Mykel Williams, but someone who I do want to give a shout out here, who I don't really think exactly fits, is Jaylen Walker. Jaylen Walker is one of the best players I've studied in terms of being extremely raw at both linebacker and edge, and yet still being so fantastic and so effective. I don't think corner is going to be a position you target. It just doesn't make any sense based on how Jones is playing. He deserves a new contract. And I think edge rusher is the position where you can really start firing. You really liked what Keion White brought to the table. That's what Nic Scourton can bring across from him. And he can bring a Matt Judon level presence. I have a lot of faith in Nic Scourton, especially if he loses a little bit of size. I think he could be a perfect fit. Let me know what you think there. I know it sucks not going offensive line, but also there is a round 2. And since I am a little bit lower on some of these players, maybe some of them will slip. At number 5 of the Tennessee Titans, there's a strong inclination that you might be in the market for a quarterback. If you guys have not seen Callahan's message after the game, Will Levis ended up making another pretty stupid mistake. And you guys know me, I've been a supporter of Will Levis. I wasn't a big supporter of him pre-draft process, but post-draft process, this has been a guy who I've been really rooting for. And, the coach is 100% correct. I ended up posting it over on my Twitter. Feel free to go to that link tree and then it's just 2 clicks away. Go to there. Go to the UnderDog Fantasy code as well. Get up to $1,000 for free in bonus cash when you sign up. But regardless, it does look like you could be in the market for a new guy. I don't know if that's going to be the case, but when you do see a new head coach come in and have massive issues with the playmaking decisions of your quarterback, it does tend to lean towards we are going to be looking for a new guy. I don't know if it's going to be in the first. It might be similar to Levis, see who can slip to the second. But it's still very much worth talking about in this context. But areas where I think the Titans can improve, defensive interior. No, dude, your defensive interior is fine. Really like what you guys are bringing to the table there. I think we can go Travis Hunter here. And he's going to be a wide receiver, pretty much going to play that Tyler Boyd role. I think that would be a fantastic role for him too. I think he just fits it like a glove. You also give that contested catch ability to where if it's Will Levis, if it is going to be another quarterback, you have a nice safety blanket there. Travis Hunter, if he wants to play corner as well, could make a difference on this team, but NFL playbooks are just so complex. It's just not right to be able to force someone to play both sides. But not only that, you're talking about the elite of the elite athletes being 100% on offense after you've already played a full drive of defense or a full drive of offense on your other side, and where your gas tank is not as filled, so to speak, as the player you're playing against. That's how you let up big plays. That's how Elic Ayomanor ends up getting 150 yards on you. So just keep that in mind. When you try to say, oh, he can play both sides of the ball, it's not college. It's not. As much as I wish he could do it, because he's a phenom of an athlete, it's just not practical either. Like, just have better roster management, be able to use him in a position where he's most impactful, or where he thinks it's most impactful for himself, which I think, based on the money, would be wide receiver. But at number 6 for the Commanders, you guys won a pretty interesting matchup. I think it was the first, I don't know if it's the first game in NFL history, but one of the first games at the very minimum. I don't know if it's since like 2000 or something. I got told the stat yesterday and it was kind of mind-boggling. I think it was the first time that a team scored over 20 points, or I'm forgetting the exact statistic, but basically you guys beat a team that scored with touchdowns pretty much exclusively with field goals, and it was like over 20 points. Something like that. You guys can end up fact-checking me there, but because I just got told by somebody that fact. Regardless, if that's true, holy crap. But we need to turn those drives into tutties. We need to be able to get far better scoring. The thing is, the two positions I think that you could get the most return on your investment at 6 would be tackle and corner. And corner just so crucial for this team. I would love for Will Johnson to have been here. Pair him back up with Mikey. That'd be great. But I also think that since that's not an option, it still needs to be on the table. Ben Morrison's up to 190 pounds. He's still an absolute dog. People disrespect this guy too much. Like, I got chewed apart for liking Will Johnson above Ben Morrison preseason. I don't know where all that energy is now from the Notre Dame fan base. Probably lost it with NIU loss, but Ben Morrison is still arguably the second best defender in college football. Like, he is unreal in terms of, maybe not defender, but certainly the second best corner in college football. Like, he really does know how to lock people down, and he's physical. He brings the energy. He's still 6 foot, which might not be the best in terms of height, but far from something that's a legitimate red flag. I really love Ben Morrison. He'll be a massive addition to your team. Pick number 7 for the Vegas Raiders, another team that could use a quarterback. We're seeing right now with how you guys played versus the Ravens, that having a quarterback like Gardner Minshew, higher floor, has that potential for big time throws, but not someone you want to consistently be doing that. You can see how that can lead to wins with how well your defense plays. And you had a beautiful emergence of a superstar. And I didn't know if he was going to be the best tight end in the NFL already, but he was the highest graded tight end I've ever had by a good margin, and that's Brock Bowers. You know how well Brock Bowers did last year? He did really well at Georgia. What if we could get him the quarterback that delivered him the ball back then, who had that beautiful connection with him? It's Carson Beck. Now, he performed well under multiple quarterbacks, if not mistaken. So, it's not just a Carson Beck thing. But you got Gardner on one more year, and I think we all know the ceiling's capped on Gardner. Carson Beck has that instant connection that you're going to be loving for the next 4+ years. Hoping that, you can get them both on second contracts, maybe upwards of a decade. You get instant chemistry with Carson Beck, and then you also have all the same positives that have been working with maybe a little bit higher of a ceiling. So I really appreciate that about what Carson Beck's going to bring to the game. 3 quarterbacks in the top 7 sounds crazy, but at the same time, Carson Beck, even after the dismal performance he had versus Kentucky, that was a chess match, man. And Carson Beck's performance, the offense just wasn't pushing it. I'm going to give him a little bit of a slack on that game. I will. And I don't want to, but I will. Because the whole entire team didn't necessarily perform well. Ernest Green allowed 4 pressures, and I think Xavier Truss only allowed 1, but there was certainly not an optimal operation of the offense, and it wasn't solely on Carson Beck. I really do trust him to bounce back. He's been extremely efficient, just needs to get back on track. Everybody has a mulligan game here and there, hence why I don't drop certain players. Like, you need to have some mistakes. That's a human thing. If you can bounce back and have a game-winning play, that's how you win. And I think Carson Beck has that in him. Pick number 8 for the Indianapolis Colts. Malachi Starks is the easy option here. I know a lot of people are not liking what Anthony Richardson's doing right now, but that's a guy who just needs more time to develop. And the question you'll eventually ask is, how much time? That's a good question. That's where you're going to have to litmus test it later in the year and be like, well, like, you need to really speed up this development because, I mean, at the end of the day, we're still a business. We need to make sure our fans are made happy with not just promises, but performance. And I think he can do that. I really do have faith in him. Malachi Starks is going to be my guy. He's just an absolute stud. Week after week, this guy makes plays, and, he's just, you need to take a guaranteed win when you can take a guaranteed win. Malachi Starks is going to be that. Pick number 9 for the Arizona Cardinals. Pass rush is going to be the king here. And you know what? I'm deploying him. All these top edge rushers, they got talent. And, some of them got some production in there. Some of them don't. But Mykel Williams ended up sitting out this past week. Injury related, pretty damn sure. Someone stepped up into that. He's a former linebacker. Pretty much, he also, in week 1, was playing primarily linebacker. That's Jaylen Walker, 6'2", 245 pounds. You might say, that's a little bit light. Look at the edge rushers you have. B.J. Ojolari, sub 250. You look at Xavier Thomas, sub 250. This fits the edge rusher that you go after. And not only that, Gannon likes some guys who can cover as well. Jaylen Walker can also play linebacker. I have graded him both as a linebacker and an edge rusher. He graded top 10 in both. I really have a lot of faith in this guy. I just genuinely believe that he's going to be a stud. He needs some more polish. Absolutely. I think some of the first, when it comes to landing his moves, still working on it, similar to James Pearce. But when Jaylen Walker lands that first hand strike, when he learns how to land a rip move properly, my God. He already got 8 pressures this past week, but I didn't even grade that game. I said, that is too much of a cherry pick. I'm going to go for his worst graded game this year that is not translatable. Or that is translatable, excuse me. And that was Clemson. And my God, I was watching this guy take on offensive tackles like it was nothing. He pretty much kamikazes into guards and stuff. But when I end up doing my re-edge rankings, I'll give you a better description. But Jaylen Walker's worth a top 10 pick. And I think he'll end up getting there. I really do. This guy's been an absolute stud. He finally got his time to shine. And my God, did he shine. That is a massive win for Jaylen Walker. And honestly, Mykel Williams has been doing very well as well. I don't think that knocks his stock at all. It just allows Jaylen Walker to shine. For the Los Angeles Rams at 10, their offensive line's been banged up. I can't blame them for having their struggles. And to be fair, defensively, they also are pretty damn banged up. So I think they can use this opportunity to pivot and do really, really well. And I'm going to go after Will Campbell. This is where I could kind of digest it. This is where I can digest it after a poor performance. And yes, you give players slack. Absolutely. But you also got to see where Will Campbell is on my board. I still have him as my 19th best player. I've been putting him high because it's like, okay, well, you know what? He has yet to perform like anything worse than a top 10 pick. So I'm willing to take him top 5. Now he's performed like, okay, well, that wasn't a top 10 performance. So now I think of you as like a top 20 player. Now I'm willing to take you top 10 at the top of the top 10. Or you guys know what I'm saying. Right at the beginning of the next stage past the top 10. Pick number 11, though, for the Jaguars. It would have been great to get Will Campbell, but this is also a team that needs help on offense. They do. And I really love Brian Thomas. He's going to be the future there. T-Mac would be great. I think that he would be a really nice piece to add there and just create a nice wide receiver duo who's young, who's explosive. I don't think the receivers are the problem. I do think the offensive line is heavily an issue. And this is a very thin offensive line class. Kelvin Banks, Jack Nelson. Jack Nelson's been struggling too. But Kelvin Banks has been pretty damn rock solid, and I'm going to give him the credit he deserves. He's going to be going to right with Will Campbell as the top 2 tackles go back to back. You need to be able to develop the offensive line. and that's going to be how you do it. At pick number 12 for the Chicago Bears, another team, my lord, you need to boost that offensive line ASAP. Again, there's no trades in this, so keep that in mind. You could want to go Mason Graham here, and you know what? I respect it, but like 80% of freaking Caleb's dropbacks were pressures. Are you kidding me? That's not right. That's legitimately, like, that's awful. You can't even argue anything, but like, just feel bad for the guy. You know, you could say, oh, well, I mean, like, woohoo, like my nails, yada, yada. I know there's all those like ghetto Gronk memes, but that was an embarrassment. And I'm going to go offensive line for this team because I think you deserve it. And Tyler Booker, he kind of struggled versus USF at tackle, but someone pointed out something very well on Twitter. They ended up talking about a unique blitz scheme that USF does. So certainly a new environment, and Booker allowing 2 pressures wasn't great at tackle, but he still was able to not be an absolute shit show, which is a good sign. But at the end of the day, Tyler Booker, you just need a really, really reliable offensive lineman, and that's exactly what you're getting here. It's not the flash and the bang that these guys bring to the table, but you don't need that. That's the thing. You don't need that. What you need is your quarterback not to get hit a billion times. And this is a guy you're going to have for 5 years who's going to be a massive plug who plays the run extremely well. But not only that, is extremely reliable as a pass blocker. Reliability is super key. Look at the teams with great offensive lines. They're the ones who usually perform better than the ones who don't. Pick number 13 for the Minnesota Vikings. It's probably going to be Mason Graham here. You might as well boost up that defensive interior. You guys are doing a great job. You could try to go corner here, but I also trust in like round 2, round 3. Well, technically you don't have a round 2 pick, but round 3, etc. You certainly could do that. I'm going to go Mason Graham. I know you re-signed one of your defensive interiors. I think it was Harrison Phillips, but Mason Graham's still going to add a great amount of punch on the interior. I love it for you guys. Pick 14 for the Steelers. Again, if we're here at 14, we've regressed. I think I want to continue mentioning that. I have faith in Justin. You know, he's somebody who's continuing to look better week after week. He's in a system that protects him better, even though our offensive line still can't do jack. But I still have a lot of faith in our team. I still think they're going to do well. And if we are at number 14, that means that we are worse off than we have been probably for like the past half decade. And you have to remember this. You might say, oh, we have Russ, we have Justin. Both of them are on 1-year contracts, guys. These guys are not on 5-year contracts. They're not on 4. They're not on 3. They're not even on 2. They're on 1-year contracts. You need to go after quarterback. But not only that, you need to go after wide receiver. But you have to, if you actually understand what your team is strong at, you lean into it. The Steelers are very, very, very talented at drafting receivers down the board. Not in the first round. We got Juju. Well, back when Juju was actually Juju. George Pickens, Deontay Johnson, Antonio Brown. All these players that we really love, not first-round picks. Trust your team. Trust your scouting department to do there's a lot of really good receivers in this class. Do not force one in round 1. It is a mistake. I'm going to go after the quarterback route. Could go after the corner route because Dante got hurt mid-game, but preying on him to be able to continue getting healthier and healthier. You could look at offensive line here. It's not out of the realm of possibility, but I'm going to default to the pick I've been going with, and that's Drew Allar. Drew Allar feels like a Steeler. He's big. He's hard to take down. He is a really, really good work ethic. I've watched his throwing motion progress from middle school all the way to now. It's completely different. He's continuing to work on it. And I think that's the reason why he's still uncomfortable when it comes to hitting moving targets on a consistent basis. And you might say that's not good for an NFL quarterback. You're not wrong. But at the same time, he's gotten better and better and better year after year after year. Great work ethic usually leads to great success in the NFL. Josh Allen sucked when he came to the NFL. He missed guys that were wide open. He had the big arm, who had the escapability, who had the size. Sound familiar? But the thing is, unlike Trey Lance, who came in with the same type of comments, Trey Lance didn't have the same work ethic. Drew Allar has a legitimate track record of him working on mechanics, and that is what ended up changing for Josh Allen. He ended up tweaking his mechanics, and then randomly he started being more and more accurate. And now the guys he sees, he can now hit with his big arm because the mechanics worked out. Drew Allar, I have similar faith in being able to do that. So there's my long spiel. 15 for the Browns. You might want to go after a wide receiver here. Tetairoa McMillan makes a ton of sense. Luther Burden after the catch. He's really damn solid, but I think there's a lot of really good after the catch guys in this class. Tetairoa McMillan's going to be the selection for me. The Browns with both Elijah Moore as well as Amari Cooper being donezo after this year, and I can guarantee you they're not going to be happy to be back. Tetairoa McMillan is going to be a godsend for you guys. It's going to be him, Jerry Jeudy. That's going to be a crucial part of that receiving core going forward. At 16 for the Seahawks, a team that honestly is doing far better in terms of, I have far more hope than the scoreboard suggests. I mean, Seahawks, man, I don't know why you guys are genuinely underperforming. Like, barely beating the Broncos and the Patriots. Not a great sign. But that right tackle spot needs help for the long run. And I think you guys agree with this. It's been a position I've been going with. I could go Marcus Mbow here, but again, coming off that week, Emery Jones ended up having statistically a far better week. Granted, I feel like they they pretty much gave Emery Jones less pressure to responsible for than he actually let up. I feel like he actually had a worse game than PFF graded watching that LSU South Carolina game. But I really do love the energy he brings. You're going to pair him up with Anthony Bradford, two LSU guys who have that physicality. Could totally see it ending up working out that way, but right tackle is going to be a massive position to address. And, I love Zach Charbonnet, former teammate, all my heart. You can't be running for like less than 3 yards a carry. You can't. And maybe it's the offensive line. If you have this final piece, it'll just end up working, but you need to be far more efficient overall. At pick 17, we got the Atlanta Falcons. Yes, we're seeing Ashton Jeanty slip a little bit. That's okay. It's running backs, dude. I mean, this is a good running back class. It's not like when Bijan and to be fair, that class wasn't too shabby, but Bijan, Jameer, and then was Cook in that class? No, Cook was in the Breece Hall class. I was trying to think of the other guys. Regardless, certainly a name that we'll be taking soon enough. I already see the team I'm probably taking him to. But at 17 for the Atlanta Falcons, Luther Burden's here. I feel like that's the smartest move for the team. You need to go after another weapon. Rondale Moore, pretty sure he was on a 1-year deal. So just giving more and more firepower is going to be super key. I know people talk about Caleb McGarry, but there's not going to be a pass blocking tackle in this class that could pretty much usurp his position. Pick number 18 for the Dolphins. It's a team that I just personally love taking safety to. I wish offensive line were more of a priority. I'd go in a heartbeat after someone like Jaden Roberts here, Donovan Jackson. I really would, but it doesn't make sense with what you guys are, as an organization, normally draft. I don't think it's out of the blue to go after a quarterback. I just don't think there is a quarterback I'd take here. There's 4 guys and a massive drop-off. Like, I'm saying that right now. There's a big, big drop-off. Like, noticeable drop-off. My next highest quarterback, I'm trying to see even who it would be. Based on this list, I'm going to be honest, I think it's Quinn. Like, it might be Quinn. That's where we're at. And I know some people really like Quinn Ewers. That's okay. But we're talking about the first round here, and it's like, woof, man. It's not a good spot. It's not a good spot to be in. But for a team that maybe could take someone like Bryce Young, or trade for him for probably pretty damn cheap, that wouldn't be a bad option, theoretically, right? Tua is not you might be able to get something out of it, but that gives Josh Rosen vibes. I do think safety, defensive interior, those are the 2 positions to target. Kenneth Grant and Deion Walker have been very unimpressive this year comparative to where their draft stock is. Nick Emmanwori is a guy who I've been going to you guys consistently with. I also want to shout out Keon Saub. I feel like Emmanwori at 6'3", 227 is going to be a little bit better of a pairing with Javon Holland. And he got his second pick 6 this past week. Got called back because of a BS call with a straight up normal block. It was a big pancake block, but the quarterback was running to make a play, and he got absolutely laid out. So Nick should have a higher grade because of that, but he didn't. And that's okay, because he's still going here. I know, kind of boring, but at the end of the day, I'm really confident in Nick potentially being a first-round pick, especially after all the testing comes out. Pick number 19 for the Chargers. As much as I want to go Colston Loveland, I got to go Ashton Jeanty. Maybe this is because I ended up seeing, I know you guys are doing so well, J.K. Dobbins, and that's phenomenal, but I don't think that Harbaugh could resist Ashton Jeanty at 19. He could be Bijan level. So keep that in mind. But Colston Loveland, I'm a little bit salty that he ended up making me lose my bet this past week by not actually having 50 yards. So RIP to that. But at 20 for the Buccaneers, I'm very happy to see that Joe Tryon-Shoyinka has been doing better I saw him make quite a few impact plays. Shout out to him. But I'm going to be going Mykel Williams here still. I still need to get someone who is going to be on a relatively cheaper contract. You cannot pay another edge rusher. With Yaya Diaby performing well, just get another young guy in there who brings that same high floor, or at least the high ceiling and the same floor that Tryon Shoyinka does. And that's exactly what Mykel Williams brings to the table. Talk about a superpower, by the way. New Orleans Saints. There's always a team that ends up kicking me in the balls whenever I try to say, like, yeah, you suck. Clint Kubiak's an absolute monster. Shout out to him. Trevor Penning's even playing well. Like, you guys are doing fantastic. Does that mean you should go after a receiver here? I mean, if you want to just add fuel to the fire, it wouldn't be a bad idea. I don't want to count out, however, a tight end like Colston Loveland in the system would be ridiculous. I really do think that would be insane. I usually go offensive line, and I want to hear your guys' thoughts on this. I will be going Colston Loveland here, for the record. I will be. I really want to hear your thoughts on that, because I just personally think you deserve better at tight end. And in Kubiak's system, being able to use Loveland as a pretty much pseudo wide receiver, I could just imagine the potential and the possibilities. So that's super key. Derek Carr also, back when Darren Waller was the thing. Remember how that went. I feel like this could be a very similar situation. Pick number 22 for the Green Bay Packers. Apparently, you don't even need Jordan Love. Apparently, Malik Willis is enough. But regardless of that fact, I do think that you guys could be in the market for another receiver like Ayomanor. But it's just a team where BPA is the best thing to do. And we have some really good players here. Shavon Revel is right up your guys' alley. He did let up over 100 yards this week. I will say that. But 6'3", 193. He's very, very raw in that aspect, but he's physical. He's exactly what your defensive coordinator is kind of looking for. And he does bring high-level athleticism with a great frame. Pick number 23 for the New York Jets. Let's see. We got to speed this up too, man. We got to speed this up. But regardless, I think that offensive tackle could be in the market for you guys. Wide receiver, apparently, you're not even using Mykel Williams, so RIP to that. Malachi Corley caught his first pass this week. That's pretty fun. But you guys might even be looking for extra help on the defensive interior. I don't know what's going on, but might need some help there. Everything aside, I wish that I didn't take Colston Loveland, because that would have been my ideal pick here. You could end up actually trying to just continue to develop that receiving core. Allen Lazard, though, I just doubt that he'll ever leave. I'm going to go after the highest ceiling player available, because I think that that's probably going to be one of the best things that you can do for this team. And based on the fact that you brought on Hassan and the dude is no bueno, Achilles tear to, what's his name, Jermaine Johnson, I'm going to go James Pearce. Doesn't fit the Jermaine Johnson build, but it does fit the Hassan Reddick build. And, you know, you're going to have him, Will McDonald there, and then hopefully you can have Jermaine Johnson come back from his injury and be A+, but it's Achilles tears are not super easy to come back from and be the exact same player, if not better. Pick 24 for the Bengals. I do like the idea of going Kenneth Grant here, now thinking about the idea of him pairing back up with Chris Jenkins. Granted, Kenneth Grant does not deserve it at this moment. He has just been very unproductive this year. And it hurts to say it, but it's true. I'm going to go interior offensive line. I think continuing to provide protection is key. I think continuing to enforce the run game is also super key. Pretty sure Kappa is up for a contract this year. And at the very minimum, you guys can be getting an upgrade here. Donovan Jackson is a top 10 player on my board, so I think it's the right move. For the Cowboys at number 25, I think it's going to be impossible to resist getting a weapon here. Judkins is a stud, but also Bond brings the heat, and he's also in Texas. He also just came off an over 100-yard game where, you know, he's showing off after the catch as well. Love Isaiah Bond. He is a top 32 player on my board, and deservedly so. And just to clarify, Mitchell Evans is not supposed to be at 27, just still waiting on some translatable tape for him. To regrade, pick number 26 for the Baltimore Ravens. It's a team that is a little confusing, but I do think offensive line is going to be your best return on investment. Savaiinaea could be someone you develop short term as you develop him, but I think that Aireontae Ersery, I might go back to the good old Aireontae Ersery pick that I did last week. I really do like that fit. I think that's a very solid one for him to play guard as he learns from Ronnie Stanley to play tackle. The guard spot was not good. To be fair, You could just go straight right guard here. I would not blame you. Jonah Savaiinaea wouldn't be a bad choice for that. Actually, Jaden Roberts, he has his issues, but my God, this guy's untapped potential. We're going to go Jaden Roberts here. Change it up a little bit. For the Detroit Lions, edge rusher is certainly on the menu for this selection. I also do think that, because, there's some good guys in this group right here. There's some good players. But I also want to highlight potentially getting another wide receiver to the mix. I love Jameson Williams, love ARSB. I still want to get that third really reliable wide receiver that is, not going to be Sam Laporta, who doesn't even really get targeted right now. Elic Ayomanor might be a good option. Emeka Buka looks healthier. I'm super excited for that. Jaden Higgins took a little bit of a slide, but he's still sitting right here at 36. Technically 35 if you count out Mitchell Evans, but still. A lot of love to go around. That's the big positive here. And I think that the smartest thing for me to do, I could go Kenneth Grant. Again, I already commented about the way I kind of want to take a step back a little bit on him, would be to go after that edge rushing position. And I like Princely Umanmielen a lot. He brings size, physicality to the table. I think he does it better than the majority of these other players who are on the board. So I'm going to be going after Princely Umanmielen. 4 pressures this past week as well. I think he's going to continue rising up boards when he ends up playing more translatable games. Pick 28 for the Texans, a team that's just been absolutely dominant. Danielle Hunter, my God, praying that guy stays healthy too, because, talent-wise, you're probably the best edge duo in the NFL at the moment, and that's awesome. It's down to Harold Perkins as well as defensive interior with Elic Williams, and it's just so hard to say no to Harold Perkins, but based on the talent that you have in that linebacking core, this is just the smartest move. Boost that interior. It's not like technically you really need it, but you guys are doing a fantastic job there. 29 for the Eagles. Jaylen Walker is my dream pick for the Eagles, but as you can tell, we already took him a long time ago to a former Eagles defensive coordinator. This is going to be Harold Perkins. I'm pretty sold that this is the correct move. Harold Perkins brings that Hassan Reddick upside in terms of even higher levels of coverage, but when this guy gets brought on as blitz, when he is playing off-ball linebacker, he is unbelievable, and we've seen when he is on the line of scrimmage, he still has that elite flexibility to be able to get under blocks and actually be able to disrupt the passer. So, that's exactly what Fangio kind of wants. Another Andrew Van Ginkel. That is the dream selection. He's just 225, so he very well might be here. Pick number 30 for the Buffalo Bills. Wide receivers got to be the move. Got to be the move. Continuing to boost the receiving core. Keon Coleman didn't even get a reception this week. You got to be able to do what you got to do. Elic Ayomanor makes a ton of sense here. He has a big physical threat. Same thing with Jaden Higgins, but Jaden Higgins, I don't know. I'd rather go after someone who I trust more as a deep threat, and I'm going to go Elic Ayomanor. At number 31, the San Francisco 49ers are on the board, and with 3 corners up for a contract, you do kind of need that depth, and Denzel Burke is here. Phenomenal choice. It's just I like the fact that in some of these drafts, because even though I do them every week, I have a different thought process every week, and it allows me to feel more and more comfortable just developing on what I thought the week before. Certain positions fall, and that's great. Denzel Burke is the selection for the Niners there. For the Chiefs at 32, offensive line certainly feels like a great move. Aireontae Ersery kicking him to right guard wouldn't be a bad idea. Same thing with Savaiinaea. Jonah Savaiinaea, actually, I've never taken him to the Chiefs, but this makes a ton of sense. He's a right tackle, so could fill in an injury, or if he ends up just being that good, Jawan Taylor, Mr. Penalty himself, could get his ass out of there. Sounds like a cool idea, but he's going to bring physicality. He brings great size, and he's going to be a great replacement for Trey Smith because there ain't no way you're paying all that offensive line. Pick number 33 for the Bears. I ended up going offensive line in round number 1. Defensive line here with Kenneth Grant or Deion Walker could certainly make sense. And again, there's no trades in this at this point. I might actually just want to exercise my option to completely revamp the offensive line. It sounds crazy. I know. It is crazy. And to be fair, we might rectify this on Wednesday. But genuinely speaking, this team needs left tackle help. They need left guard help. They need center help. Probably the only position I don't really have that much concern with is right tackle. And For that, I'm grateful. We're going to go Jack Nelson here. He's had his struggles so far this year. I think he's allowed a pressure or minimum every single game, but he's someone who I've seen mid-game be able to adjust to failure, and is someone who I have a lot of faith in to be successful if in the right position. 6'7", 312 pounds. He's a guy worth taking. You pair him up there with Tyler Booker as well. Having a completely revamped left side of the offensive line could work miracles for you. Pick number 34 for the New York Giants. Took Miller Moss in round number 1. Might even take Quinshon Judkins here. I love the fact that your secondary right now is at least having some sort of positivity there, right? Drew Phillips has been fantastic. Compare him up with Maxwell Harrison in round 3, but Tacario Davis here sounds a little bit dangerous. 6'4". He has great length. He has very high IQ. Might end up being a safety, but that might not be a bad thing for this team. I like the idea because then down the board, if you do get a Maxwell Harrison in round 3, you can still pick him and then move to Tacario to safety, where I think he'd be an elite threat. So you're getting size, physicality, and IQ. That's going to be super crucial regardless. He's just a little bit stiff. But if you can handle that, Banks, Davis, Phillips might be a very young, very high upside corner core going forward. Pick number 35 for the Broncos ended up going, what did we do for the Broncos? We went Will Johnson. My goodness. Love that for you. Pass rushers certainly should still be on the market, but same thing with left tackle. And, with Bowles probably going to be gone, most likely going to be gone. Josh Simmons, Aireontae Ersery, both these guys are fantastic. They really are. I really like Josh Simmons in this case because I think he has been taking steps up. Ohio State hasn't played anybody, to be fair, but he's still doing a great job. Aireontae Ersery is more of a run blocker that needs time to develop as a pass blocker. I have a lot more faith that Josh Simmons can compete early on, and it's a little bit bold of me to take him this early, but I'm going to take the shot on him. I'm going to have some faith in him in this draft. Pick number 36 for the New England Patriots. Ended up taking an edge rusher early on. Honestly, if you don't like the Josh Simmons pick, we could take him here. You could go Aireontae Ersery here. That wouldn't be a bad choice. And honestly, based on the offensive line play, why not test it out? Because Wallace or Ersery can play guard as well. And it's never a bad thing to have a lot of really talented offensive linemen, because if one of them fails, you have hope with other offensive linemen. That's what you guys have done so well, is always have the next man up. Aireontae Ersery is going to be the selection there. At number 37 for the Tennessee Titans, I haven't seen a quarterback I haven't seen one slip that I think is worth really testing the waters here. Granted, Quinn Ewers might not be the bad choice, but I want someone who's a little bit more like Joe Burrow, right? That's what Callahan's used to, and I don't really see the consistent quarterback that Joe Burrow is. Granted, early on in the season, he's not consistent, but hell, in the 3rd round, if you want to go Nuss Bus here and Garrett Nussmeier, not a bad option. He didn't have the best week this past week, but that's okay. Regardless, I do think that the Titans will be also looking at maybe some extra pass rush, and there's still some very, very good candidates here. Landon Jackson's coming off a great week, but he just doesn't really fit your style. 280 pounds, not necessarily going to be the edge rusher you look for. I want to give a shout out to Kaimon Rucker because this dude just produces and never gets credit for it. But yeah, in the 1st round, what did we end up doing? We went Travis Hunter as a wide receiver here. I think it is time to either look at offensive tackle, which, to be fair, we got Marcus Mbow here. Marcus Mbow doesn't exactly fit the exact profile that, J.C. Latham does, though. Anthony Belton does, but, I don't see any more right tackles that I really trust to have that size and physicality that J.C. Latham does. So looking at the other options here, Quinshon Judkins might not be a horrible move. Your running back core has been doing a great job overall, but sometimes you just got to pound the rock, dude. But I will be refraining from that. I will be actually addressing the edge core. Abdul Carter has a crazy upside, but it's just, I think he should return to school. Kaimon Rucker has just been uber reliable this whole time. And North Carolina to Tennessee, gotta love it. Keep it in the South, and you're going to be getting some really, really good production out of the kid. Pick 38 for the Commanders. Ended up going after offensive line in the 1st. Just kidding. We ended up going after Ben Morrison. This is where I'm taking Marcus Mbow, friend of the show, just had a struggle bus week this past week. I do have faith in him. We're going to have Brandon Crenshaw Dixon be the placeholder because somebody did not like that I kind of disrespected Xavier Truss, who I love as a guard. But Brandon will be the placeholder for my currently number 6 player on my board, Marcus Mbow. Friend of the show, you guys can check out last week, had him on for an interview. Pick number 39 for the Las Vegas Raiders. I think that going after quarterback was the right first move. I'm going to actually go after Quinshon Judkins here. It's a cheaper, super reliable, high power back. He feels like he could be a really, really good Raider. And it keeps the offense in rhythm as well. Pick number 40 for the Indianapolis Colts. I'm pretty sure Buckner just went down. That sucks. I don't think it's anything serious if off the top of my head, but we ended up addressing safety with Malachi Starks early on. We need to go after corner here. Just defensive backs need to be replenished. It's just the team that needs replenishment for it. And let's not go far. Indiana to Nebraska. Tommy Hill, he's a big playmaker, and I really do love him. He's physical as well, 6'1", 195. Very smart player. I think he's gotten better and better through his time in college, and everybody who talks about him is raving reviews. Pick 41 for the Arizona Cardinals. Got our edge rusher and Jaylen Walker. This is where I feel comfortable about these guys who are heavily underproducing. Kenneth Grant has not been producing as a pass rush at all. Deion Walker didn't really do much either. But at this point, this is where it makes a lot of sense. Deion Walker is going to be the player I go after just because I think a pad level issue is something that, Gannon, who's dealt with some pretty sizable defensive interiors, can handle. And I'm going to allow him to work his magic. At 42 for the Carolina Panthers, got our quarterback in round number 1. God bless. Offensive line's been doing well. I'm going to look at the defensive side here. Looking at the corners, I'm going to go after Quincy Riley. Louisville, Kentucky ain't too far away from where the Panthers are located. So I think they're going to have their eyes on a player who is extremely talented, very smart, very physical, very similar to Tommy Hill. And, he's a sprinter. So the proof's in the pudding. Pick number 43 for the Jaguars. Went after offensive tackle in round number 1. Here in round number 2, I will be going after a receiver. And I think Emeka Egbuka on the outside paired up with Brian Thomas, paired up with Christian Kirk. I think that gives an even better chance of this team to have success, and he just needs to stay healthy. At 44 for the Bears, Kenneth Grant's kind of hard to pass on at this point. Again, he's been extremely underproductive. I want to continue re-emphasizing that. That's why he's ending up slipping here, because it's fun to have a player who has great attitude, great upside, but at the same time, the Bears are in a position where you need impact, and going offensive line, super duper crucial. Now, this class has a lot of receivers. I had 57 laid out in a video already. 2 hours, 11 minutes, 11 seconds of me breaking it down. So you can check that out. Some things have changed. Very few things have actually changed, to be honest. But regardless of that, there are options, I think, for the Bears down the line. Defensive interior, I'm taking the shot. Kenneth Grant at this point doesn't need to be an instant impact player, but he's certainly going to add a lot of fun upside there with Gervin Dexter. Pick 45, we got the Bills. Abdul Carter makes a ton of sense here. What do we do for him in round number 1? We went Elic Ayomanor. Kevin Winston is such a dog. Having him and Cole Bishop, who ended up playing his first snaps, I think, this week and did well. Not many snaps, but Kevin Winston and Cole Bishop. That's going to be the safety duo for the future. 46 for the Steelers. We ended up going at quarterback in round number 1. Already know it's going to ruffle some feathers, and that's okay. You guys know I love y'all. I do think that getting some size is certainly key in this receiving core, and so I will be going after my number 36 player in the draft, Jaden Higgins. He uses physicality primarily to separate, but he's a smooth route runner. I think he needs to use it more. I think he started to I think he's going to bounce back from it, absolutely, but he's not really using route manipulation in terms of trying to at least fake out a defender. I think he's pretty open and honest about where he's going, and that doesn't allow you to generate the separation that you could if you're making a defender guess where you're going. Pick 47 for the Cleveland Browns. Running back's going to be the move here because this team relies on heavy running back play, and Trevor Etienne's been doing phenomenally well. I think they've had a lot of success going to Georgia with Nick Chubb. They're going to have success going back with Trevor Etienne, who is he is dominant. He really is. Even in a game where the offense wasn't producing well, it was his first game truly back, and he still was able to put up over 80 yards and be pretty damn reliably consistent. I really have a lot of faith in the guy. He is my RB1, but to be fair. Again, the only reason that Jeanty is not my RB1 is because he has a track record of fumbles. Still waiting on a couple more games before I could eliminate that concern, because this year matters a lot more than every other year, because this year is the year closest to the NFL. Pick number 48, though, for the Seahawks. Abdul Carter's fun. Could talk about that. Danny Stutzman, you could end up having him end up being the Mike, while Tyrese Knight, who ended up playing a full game, can play the Will. Certainly would be fun in that regard. I think that wouldn't be too shabby, actually. But I do think if you're sitting here outside of the playoffs, we already talked about this several times, it's going to be QB. Jalen Milroe fits a lot. Same thing with Quinn Ewers. You can't really deny that either choice would be a bad move. I've taken Jalen Milroe so many times. Let's change it up a little bit. Why not? We've taken right tackle. Let's go after Quinn Ewers here. Pick number 49 for the Atlanta Falcons. Ended up going after a wide receiver in round number 1 with Luther Burden. Abdul Carter is here, and with Judon hopefully going to be on the team next year, I'd take a shot on another Penn State edge rusher. I think Ebiketie is doing perfectly fine for, what a lot of people expected him to do. But Abdul Carter has that upside that if you pair it with Matt Judon, I think it could be something really awesome. So Abdul Carter worth it at 49. Pick number 50 for the Miami Dolphins. This is where they seem to care about offensive line, and you need to desperately. Belton might be a guy who I take here who can either play guard or tackle, because I like both. Center, to be fair, I don't know if center's the exact issue I would try to target, but interior offensive line with Jake Slaughter, who's been doing really well, not out of the equation. But I really like Anthony Belton, who brings a 330-plus pound frame to the table. And does it say class guard or graduate? I think it's graduate. He brings experience. He brings power. He will be able to fill in at left tackle if you can't with Patrick Paul. And I really do like that upside. So we're going to go Anthony Belton here. Pick number 51 for the Chargers. Tight end, defensive interior, probably the two positions I'm going after. And looking at the guys available, I love Walter Nolan to the squad. He's 295, but he's explosive. He's made a lot of plays, 5 stops and 4 pressures this past week, or might have been the other way around. I think it was 5 pressures, 4 defensive stops. That's an all-around game, and for someone who has untapped potential, I want to just send him to Harbaugh and see what he does. At 52 for the Buccaneers, I love Zion McCollum doing his thing. That was my biggest issue with the team, was whether Zion McCollum, which I said was the steal of the draft when they got him in the 4th, if he was going to actually step up, and he stepped up in a big way. Big fan of that, so no need to go after corner here. What I really want to target, we've already gone after edge rusher as well in the first round. We went after Mykel Williams. Would be probably in that linebacking core. I mean, you could also go in this tight end group. Tyler Warren would be a fantastic option at this point. Harold Fannin also could be in this consideration. I think both those guys bring a lot to the table for this team, because I'm not a fan of Cade Otton in terms of him being a genuine tight end 1 for this team. And you know what? Let's get Baker his I guess technically Njoku would not be a similar comp for Warren, but Warren brings a lot of receiving upside, and he's also not too shabby of a blocker. At 53, speaking of a team who went after a tight end, we have the Saints. And the Saints, you guys are pretty much good at everything, but I think it's time to develop another safety. Keon Saub's an absolute monster, and you guys ended up going to Bama last year in the 2nd to steal a falling star, and that's exactly what you get with Keon Saub here, who's going to pair back up, not with a teammate because he played on Michigan the year that Xavier McKinney was brought onto this team, but might be a fun duo going forward. Pick number 54 for the Buccaneers. Goddamn, I just looked at Packers and read Buccaneers. The Green Bay Packers ended up taking, what do we do in the first round? Shavon Revel. I actually think linebacker's not out of the equation here. Running back, you could consider it. Marshawn Lloyd has not been very productive as of late, but I do like the idea of trying to test the waters on another receiver. I'm just not seeing one besides Deion Burks that would really be earning a spot on the Packers. So I do like the idea of potentially going after best potential available in Bear Alexander here, as long as he gets his head and ass wired together. Edge rusher wise, though, to be fair, I really do like Landon Jackson, Jack Sawyer, JT Tuimoloau. I think they could be big impact players on the squad. And Jack Sawyer just brings a high level of run stuffing ability that I think would lean pretty damn well towards this Packers defensive front. He could pretty much be very similar to Lucas Van Ness, who's still developing, but Jack Sawyer is going to bring even more punch to the table. Pick 55 for the Jets, took an edge rusher in round number 1. Here in round number 2, I could see them trying to go after another receiver, but again, the bigger, heavier receivers just are not available. I do think that you could try to address linebacker because I think C.J. Mosley has been dealing with some stuff. And Jack Kaiser's phenomenal. Danny Stutzman's phenomenal. I think just getting reliable linebackers is super key. And Danny Stutzman's a better athlete with more experience, so I think I'm going to go there. Speaking of another team that can go linebacker, we got the Bengals. And this isn't sexy or anything, but we are going to go after a linebacker. I think a second linebacker is super key. You guys end up really being able to win the games by having a stout defense, and being more and more reliable is super duper key. Having Jack Kaiser in your second level is going to be a big contributor to that. He is my number 4 player in the class. Pick number 57 for the Dallas Cowboys, took wide receiver in round number 1. Running back here would not be a bad option. Kyle Monungai is certainly in there, but you could wait till round number 3. Another position the Cowboys could try to target. You could even go for another receiver for all I care. Right guard, if you did have somebody like Jake Slaughter, who I really like, could move him to right guard. Or you can put Cooper Beebe to right guard and then put Jake Slaughter to center. Your choice. But you could also, there's not many positions I think you really need to address. Linebacker, though, certainly in the equation. But I think it's fair. With the running back talent that's on the board, go after the running back talent. I'm going to go Kyle Monungai. Look at this guy, 5'9", 209, so he brings the power too. But look at his yards per attempt, 8.1. This guy's coming off a fantastic game. Forgetting if he does have any fumbles on the year, but he's just somebody who is rock solid, reliable, and it's not a big name who I want to give a lot of credit to. Pick 58 for the Baltimore Ravens. So Baltimore, we already went offensive line for you guys. We already did. We ended up going Jaden Roberts, who I ended up pretty much stealing from a couple of the other teams I would have wanted to send him to. It's not a team that I really think needs a ton, but I do like going corner for this team, a corner 2. And that corner 2 might just be Jason Marshall. He performed very well versus Texas A&M when the rest of the defense sucked. And this is my time to just kind of highlight some guys who probably won't go in the second, but I still want to give him some credit. I'm going to go Jason Marshall Jr. here. He's big, he's physical, and he's reliable, honestly. Look at this. For Florida corners, this is like ungodly grades. Look at that. He struggled week 1. It's week 1, guys. But then, he went up against a bum team and then ended up shining against arguably the best receiving corps that he faced. So that's a big win right there. Only allowing 42 yards on the year so far is awesome. Big fan of what he's done. And again, looking at what he's done from last year to this year, that's a big difference. So Jason Marshall, shout out to you, buddy. You might not go in the second, but I'm still going to give you the love you deserve. Pick 59 for the Detroit Lions, going offensive line because this team cares a lot about their offensive line. Tate Ratledge makes just so much sense. 320, reliable guard. He's just someone that you cannot complain about in any way, shape, or form. Look at what we did in round number 1. We ended up going after Princely Umanmielen. I'm like praying to God I did not go after a guard. But this is where you need to focus. Just continue strengthening the lines. All right, now with the Texans, we ended up going after a defensive interior in the first round. We got Elic Williams at 28th. And now, there's not too many positions this superpowered team really needs, but I would say you could try to replenish since Diggs is going to be gone. You could try to get another weapon in here. Deion Burks would be quite fun, but you also are kind of super loaded at that position. No real need to do so. I do like the addition of adding some extra offensive line help on the interior. I'm glad to see Kenyon Green's improving. But I think center could always use an upgrade. Parker Brailsford is fantastic. Jake Slaughter is fantastic. I definitely think that could be certainly an option. You could try to even go for a home run hitter like Ollie Gordon to pair up with Joe Mixon. Since unfortunately it looks like Dameon Pierce has not really been that kind of guy. Besides that, you could get some extra edge depth. Derek Barnett ended up being brought back for a short term, but I certainly think that you could even try to get somebody who could play pure slot now that Kamari could also be on the boundary. Jabbar Muhammad does bring a little bit extra juice and physicality that can pair well with guys like Jalen Pitre in the group. So, you know what? Let me know what you think about this. I haven't done it before, but I really love Jabbar Muhammad, and I wanted to give him some more love. At pick number 61 for the Philadelphia Eagles, tight end is the route that I primarily go for this team. It's edge and tight end, and I think it's a smart way to go. You look at Harold Fannin, you look at Mitchell Evans. Glad to see Harold Fannin finally added into here, by the way. It looks like they've added a couple more players, which is a plus. So I'm very happy to see that. I think they've been doing that more and more. I talked to Trevor Sikkema. We ended up having a small interaction on Twitter, and I think that, he's saying that they're going to be trying to do their thing and add some more guys in. Harold Fannin certainly could be that type of option. Another route I could see for the Eagles is trying to develop an extra offensive lineman. However, Josh Conerly actually does feel like it could be a Philadelphia pick. He could play guard in the short run as he prepares to play tackle, but at the same time, you guys have been doing a great job on that front. I think tight end's probably the best route to go. Harold Fannin's a little bit on the lighter side, but so is Jake Brenningstool, who I think is far superior. He just had a 100-yard game and 2 touchdowns versus Appalachian State. Was misused versus Georgia, but he's 240 pounds. He's up to 240 now. Good for him. You know what? We're gonna go Jake Brenningstool. He's a very underrated blocker as well. I don't think that he gets enough credit for that. I really like the idea of bringing Brenningstool as well as Harold Perkins into the fold. Again, Dylan Gabriel is going to be dropping as well. I don't know why I still haven't done that, but it's okay. I have an official grade on him that is far lower than that, but that is A-okay. For the Bills, we ended up getting safety with Winston as well as what we got. Okay, I was about to say we got Abdul Carter. We got Kevin Winston as well as Elic Ayomanor. That's a really nice 1-2 punch there. Edge rusher is next. You got JT Tuimoloau here. Excellent value. Got some good mentorship there as well. This is the perfect guy later on to develop. At pick number 63, we got the San Francisco 49ers, who went after a corner in Denzel Burke in round number 1. Now is the perfect time to test your luck at one of these offensive tackles. I like the idea of testing Josh Conerly as, the developmental guy to take over for Trent Williams, but he's not going to be leaving anytime soon with that contract extension. I'm going to go Blake Miller here, who is a higher floor and a pure right tackle. He has his issues respectively, but I honestly think that the ceiling is a higher likelihood with Blake Miller than it is with Conerly, who's been he fluctuates between being relatively mediocre and then actually really solid. But Blake Miller still has the size, and he's not 6'4", 300 pounds. He's 6'6", 315, a little bit more NFL build. And at 64 for the Kansas City Chiefs, in the first round, we took Jonah Savaiinaea to play the right guard spot. Here at pick number 64, you could try to get another running back into the equation. You're bringing in Kareem Hunt on Tuesday. Unfortunately, Pacheco going to be out 6 to 8 weeks, but Ollie Gordon is perfect for that. So you're pretty much going to be getting your Pacheco right there and having an elite running back core. But that is going to be the video. What do you guys think? Obviously, some new faces, some new names, but super excited for the week to come. Thank you so much for watching. Love you. See you on the far side. Peace.